Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. India has become the first country to cross 400,000 COVID-19 infections in a day. The country also recorded more than 3,500 deaths in the last 24 hours. Pakistan has registered more than 4,600 cases and 146 deaths overnight, with the toll approaching 18,000. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 150 million others. Chad's ruling military claims it has wiped out several hundred rebels over 2 days of fighting near the northern town of Nakou. The council said it took around 60 rebels as captives, while 6 of its soldiers were killed. In Myanmar, deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has completed the 3rd month under military-ordered house arrest. Meanwhile, UN envoy Christine Schreiner Bergner says the country risks coming to a standstill as violence worsens. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed at least 759 protesters in the crackdown on dissent. In China, at least 11 people have died and 102 others injured after a hail thunderstorm hit Jiangsu province. Officials say rescuers have evacuated more than 3,000 people in Nantong city. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. India has become the first nation to cross 400,000 COVID-19 infections in a day. The country also recorded more than 3,500 deaths in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3 million lives and infected over 150 million others. Details in the following report.
India's COVID-19 crisis has plunged the country into an unprecedented catastrophe. While medical experts say real numbers may be 5 to 10 times higher than the official tally. A government forum of scientific advisors says the center ignored warnings of more contagious variants in early March. Meanwhile, in yet another fire at hospital treating coronavirus patients, 18 people, including 2 healthcare workers, have died in western Gujarat state. Several Indian states say they have run out of vaccines.
The companies manufacturing vaccines, the Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute India, will not be able to deliver their doses on May 1. So that is why the vaccination drive in Madhya Pradesh will not begin from May 1.
The US has imposed new travel restrictions on India from May 4th, barring the entry of most non-US citizens. In Rio de Janeiro, 400 empty body bags lined the sand of a beach as an NGO protested against Brazil becoming the second country to pass 400,000 deaths. The World Health Organization has warned that South America has been suffering from a complicated and severe COVID-19 crisis.
Since the beginning of November, Brazil has experienced an acute crisis with increasing cases, hospitalizations and deaths, including among younger people. During April, intensive care units have been at almost full capacity across the country.
WHO also warned that it is still far away from its goal of equitable vaccine access, and supplies sent to COVAX are not sufficient. This comes as the US officially crossed the 100 million mark of people who are fully vaccinated. Meanwhile, in England, thousands hit a rave in Liverpool as part of a government-backed trial to restart mass audience events.
Pakistan has reported 146 more deaths from COVID-19 and almost 4,700 infections during the past 24 hours. The health ministry says the nationwide death toll is approaching 18,000. Over 825,000 people have contracted the virus so far, out of which more than 717,000 have recovered. The number of active cases has crossed 90,000 and nearly 5,500 are in critical condition. Amid the surge in cases, the government has decided to reduce inbound international flights to 20%. The NCOC said the revised plan will be effective from May 5th to May 20th. Meanwhile, Pakistan has confirmed the first cases of the Brazilian and South African variants in Sindh province. Chad's ruling military claims it has wiped out several hundred rebels over 2 days of fighting near the northern town of Nuku. In a statement, the council said it took around 60 rebels as captives. The military said 6 of its soldiers died in the fighting, while 22 others were injured. The council added that it has successfully repelled a rebel incursion towards Nuku. It said the search for the final fugitives continues. The Transitional Military Council seized power after former President Idris Deby's death and promised to hold elections within 18 months. The northern rebels have rejected the council and are fighting the army in the desert. Afghanistan's High Council for National Reconciliation has reiterated support for a quick restart of intra-Afghan talks. In a tweet, Council head Abdullah said Kabul looks forward to the reduction of violence in the country.
Abdullah welcomed the statement released by the extended Troika. Earlier, envoys from the US, Russia, China, Pakistan, and the Taliban met in Doha to discuss ways to support intra-Afghan talks. US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad said Washington welcomes positive engagement by Troika members. In a joint statement, the participants said only Afghan-led and Afghan-owned political settlement can ensure lasting peace. They called on the Taliban to reduce violence and urged the Afghan government to engage openly with their Taliban counterparts. The envoy said all parties must respect their obligations under international humanitarian law in all circumstances.
In Afghanistan, the Interior Ministry says 21 people have been killed and 91 wounded in a car bomb explosion near a guest house in eastern Logar province. Ministry spokesperson Tariq Aryan said several buildings were damaged, including a hospital. Local officials initially put the death toll at 30. They said the car detonated near the home of the former head of the provincial council. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. In Iraq, at least 4 soldiers have been killed in a bomb attack that targeted a military vehicle in the capital, Baghdad. The Iraqi Defense Ministry says a bomb detonated during an operation carried out by security forces in the Al-Tarmiya district. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far, but ISIS terrorists have stepped up attacks since the start of 2021. They are targeting the Kirkuk, Saladin and Diyala regions in particular. The US says indirect negotiations with Iran in Vienna to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal are in unclear place. Addressing a webinar, the National Security Advisor hailed the readiness of all sides to return to the pact. However, Jake Sullivan added that it is uncertain if this would culminate in a deal in the Austrian capital. His comments follow the start of a third round of Vienna talks to revive the JCPOA. Meanwhile, Iran has noted promising developments in the ongoing negotiations in Vienna. The talks have been overshadowed by an explosion at Iran's Natanz plant, which Tehran blamed on Israel. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the U.S. needs to prepare for future conflicts, which will be very difficult from the past. The Pentagon chief delivered his first significant policy speech during a trip to Hawaii-based U.S. Pacific Command. Austin said the old wars long consumed the Pentagon and called for harnessing technological advances. He stressed the need for better integrating military operations globally to understand, decide, and act faster. The secretary said Washington's response to conflicts could be indirect. He outlined a scenario in which cyber warfare could be used to respond to a maritime security incident hundreds of miles away. The European Union says the latest Russian sanctions on 8 EU individuals seek a confrontation. The heads of the European Commission, Council and Parliament issued a joint statement on the matter. They called Moscow's move illegal, groundless, and said it targets the bloc rather than individuals. The EU also said Russia is escalating tensions instead of resolving issues through diplomatic channels. The European leaders said they are ready to take stricter action against Russia and promised more sanctions. Germany also rejected the Russian entry ban on EU officials, saying it was unfounded and worsened ties. Pakistan says it is disappointed at the adoption of a resolution at the EU Parliament on blasphemy laws in the country. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the resolution reflects a lack of understanding of blasphemy laws and associated religious sensitivities. It urged the international community to jointly fight xenophobia and work together for peaceful coexistence. The Foreign Office said the unwarranted commentary about Pakistan's judicial system is regrettable. It pointed out that Pakistan is committed to the protection of human rights for all its citizens without discrimination. The Foreign Office said Islamabad will continue to remain engaged with Brussels on issues of mutual interest. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has stressed the need for a responsible withdrawal of foreign troops from Afghanistan. He said this in a meeting with Hungary's Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade, Peter Szijjártó, in Islamabad. Khan said peace and stability in Afghanistan would enhance trade and regional connectivity. He also underlined the importance of developing strong economic ties with Hungary. Earlier, Szijjártó called on Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi in Islamabad. During the meeting, the Hungarian diplomat lauded Pakistan's role in maintaining regional stability. He said the EU should assist Pakistan in its fight against terrorism, especially after NATO withdrawal from Afghanistan. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the U.S. state of Texas, police say they have found more than 90 people crammed into a two-story home in Houston. They suspect the home was being used in a human smuggling operation. Talking to the media, Houston Police Assistant Chief Darren Edwards said officers were responding to reports of a kidnapping. Edwards noted several victims showed symptoms of COVID-19 infection, including fever. He added all persons compromising women mostly have been removed from the house. No arrests have been made so far, but Homeland Security investigations will lead a smuggling probe. In Myanmar, deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has completed the third month under military-ordered house arrest. She has been charged on 6 counts, including sedition, and denied private meetings with her lawyers. In Monwa, Sagaing region, protesters held a May Day strike against the Myanmar junta. Protesters also rallied in Mandalay city and the southern town of Dawei. There were reports of several small blasts in different places, including Yangon. Meanwhile, UN envoy Christine Schreiner-Bergener says the country risks coming to a standstill as violence worsens. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed at least 759 protesters in the crackdown on dissent. Lebanon and Israel are set to resume U.S.-mediated talks over their disputed Mediterranean Sea border next week. Led by John Desroca, the U.S. team will arrive in Beirut on Monday ahead of the talks on Tuesday. The U.S. State Department said the talks will be a positive step towards a long-awaited resolution. Israel and Lebanon each claim over 300 square miles of the Mediterranean Sea. But in the second round of talks, Beirut offered a new map that pushes for an additional 550 square miles. Resolving the border issue can pave the way for lucrative oil and gas deals on both sides. In China, at least 11 people have died and 102 others injured after a hail thunderstorm hit Jiangsu province. Officials said rescuers have evacuated more than 3,000 people in Nantong city. Reportedly, the extreme weather has affected more than 13,000 people in several cities. Strong winds during a thunderstorm downed trees led to the collapse of buildings and blew people into the river. Elsewhere, 11 people drowned after their fishing boat capsized. 2 of them have been rescued, while the search for 9 is still missing. After overnight repair, the power supply has been resumed in some areas and debris clearing is underway. In Colombia, protesters turned out to pressure the government to abandon a planned tax reform proposal that has sparked public anger. People threw Molotovs, cocktails and rocks in Bogota as riot police used tear gas and a water cannon. Demonstrators blocked streets with burning barricades and scattered debris across roads. Bogota altered its proposed tax reform to not include sales tax on food, utilities or gasoline. Officials say the government is willing to modify the reform but will not withdraw it, as the passage of this bill is key to stabilizing public finances and keeping social programs running. In China, a light show in Wuhan, once hit hard by COVID-19, depicts the city's strong recovery from the coronavirus outbreak. More in this report.
Wuhan decorated its night sky to send a message of hope and innovation to the world. The city is putting on the show under its Tech and Innovation Center, an area called Optics Valley, during the 5-day Labor Day holiday. Buildings along China's longest river, the Yangtze, have been lit up.
We'd like to invite all friends from across the world to Wuhan to enjoy this light show and make them feel the rebirth of the Optics Valley and all the city, as well as the vitality and vigor in economic recovery.
Wuhan's GDP had contracted greatly in the first quarter of 2020, but has managed a robust rebound since the lift of the 76-day lockdown. The economic growth of the city is especially reflected in the high-tech manufacturing industry, with a 5-fold increase in investment compared with early last year.
As daily life picks up this summer, families in New York will soon have a new Lego-themed amusement park to enjoy. Details in this report.
3, 2, 1.
The long-delayed Legoland New York is finally set to open this summer. Currently in the final phases of construction, the park is located in Goshen, which is only an hour-long drive from New York City. After its opening, its 150-acre attraction will have everything Lego lovers could imagine. Already well underway are Lego versions of US cities, including New York. The park will feature 50 rides and attractions. One of the rides will use technology to turn the riders into Lego minifigures as they travel through a Lego factory.
This is the first time that we've shown all of these rides and attractions off to the world. You saw our brand new ride, the Lego Factory Adventure Ride, which is never before seen in any Legoland theme park.
At the hotel adjacent to the park, guests are to expect limited capacity, an online advanced reservation system, digital park tickets, and cashless payments.
We have stringent safety protocols in place. You've seen some of them today. We're all masked. We take social distancing very seriously. We are striving to make this a cashless and a contactless resort so that everybody can feel safe and make Legoland New York Resort a safe place to play.
The park will be populated by a total of some 15,000 Lego models. In order to comply with social distancing, it is set to open in phases during the summer.
In cricket, Pakistan will resume their first innings at 374 for 6 on day 3 of the first test match against Zimbabwe in Harare. The Green Shirts have secured a commanding lead of 198 runs after they bowled out the hosts for 176 in the first innings. All-rounder Fawad Alam struck his 4th test 100 for Pakistan and remains unbeaten at 108 runs. In tennis, Britain's Cameron Norrie and Croatia's Marin Cilic have cruised into semi-finals of the ESTORIL Open in Portugal. The two will now clash for a place in the final today. Norrie came back from a set-down to rally to a 3-6, 7-5, 6-3 win over second-seed Chile's Christian Garin. In Munich Open, Belarusian Ilya Ivashka stunned world number 6 Alexander Zverev 6-7, 7-5, 6-3 to reach the semi-final. The win on center court is Ivashka's biggest so far. The Belarusian capitalized on Zverev's double faults in the second set and clinched 9 out of 12 final games to seal his win. In football, 10-man Southampton hold Leicester City to a 1-1 draw, frustrating the Foxes in their push for a top 4 finish in the Premier League. The draw leaves Leicester in third place with 63 points, 5 ahead of fourth place Chelsea. Southampton's Yannick Westergaard was shown a red card for a last-ditch tackle on Jamie Vardy just after 10 minutes. But the Saints took the lead in the 61st minute after James Ward-Prowse scored from the penalty spot. Leicester equalized 7 minutes later when Johnny Evans headed into salvage a point for the Foxes. Southampton have now climbed to 14th place and are 10 points clear of the relegation zone. And RB Leipzig beat Werder Bremen 2-1 to reach a German Cup final in their bid to win their first major trophy. Leipzig will now clash with either Borussia Dortmund or Holstein Kiel for the title on May 13 in Berlin. Leipzig dominated throughout but had to wait until the 93rd minute when Hee-Chan Wang fired them into the lead. Bremen leveled 12 minutes later with Leonardo Bittencourt steering the ball home from inside the penalty area. But Leipzig had the last laugh as substitute Emil Forsberg netted their winner with the penalty shootout looming. The second semi-final will be played between Borussia Dortmund and Holstein Kiel today. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.